Welcome back to Talking Town Ball. In this week's episode, we get into the minutes of this last weekend's interesting state board meeting. Our special guest interview is a legend from up north. We'll be speaking with Bucky Burgau of Concordia College and Perham amateur baseball fame. So cuddle up with a nice sugar-free Red Bull and rip open a family-sized bag of Cool Ranch Doritos. It's time to talk town ball.
Under those stars where the heart beats strong, Minnesota diamonds where we all belong. Cheering voices carrying through the night, the soul of the state under stadium lights.
Welcome back to the Talkin' Town Ball podcast. Today is Wednesday, May 14th. I am Jordan Flick of Dassel Cokato, and I'm here with John Anderson of Litchfield, Ryan Hayes of Delano. We wanted to tell you our names because that's something we're trying to really stay on top of here.
Yeah, get it out of the way out front.
Well, let's just roll right into it. We talked about some, pressing issues last episode with some teams, some situations they're in. This past Saturday, the state board had a meeting. A lot went down, so we'll kind of get into it here.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I believe that they were visiting state sites. I know that that's kind of the regular par for the course thing. They go out, they make sure everything is online, on track for their tournament hosts, and sounds like each location was looking pretty pristine. Obviously, still a lot to be done in the next 2-3 months leading up to the tournament, but we spent a lot of time on that last episode on Buffalo, and Buffalo looks like they weren't alone in their maybe not situationally unique, obviously, but when you look at teams that were being threatened to be bumped up from B to A, they were not unique in that factor. So, looking at the minutes, let's kind of review. We had a handful of teams get bumped to A this last Saturday. Jordan, do you have that list for us?
Yeah. So Buffalo, they are in A. That decision stands. Along with them moving to Class A is Owatonna and Faribault. So they'll be A for 2025. Buffalo is being placed in Section 5, while Faribault and Owatonna are being placed in Section 1.
Go ahead.
Yeah, Hayes, go for it.
Go for it.
Yeah, and I was just looking. So, Section 5, they're the one with 7 teams. Plymouth Hit Dog, Baseball 365, Minnetonka, Mixed Strength, Hopkins and Northwest, Orioles, and now they have Buffalo. They get 2 bids, 7 teams. That's the one we were had 3 teams going to the state tournament. So I am going to stand by what we originally said. They should get 3 teams. I mean, I had Buffalo. I think could.
It's a meat grinder.
I think Buffalo could get in, but that's gonna be a tough section. But Buffalo's got some horses. They.
Oh yeah.
Yep.
It's
I like their chances.
Yeah, it's not like a chip in a chair situation. They've got some top end starters. They've got an offense that can hit, but you're starting to talk about the big boys. Anytime Minnetonka, that's a hefty opponent there, and there are some other really good teams there. So the road is going to be interesting for these B teams as they enter the world of A. And
Two more before I forget here, just reading down the list. It looks like Alexandria is also moving to A. They are going to be in Section 8. Sabin, the Mets, they are also moving to A, and they will also be in Section 8. So of the Class A teams being moved, that's it. Also, one team is being moved to Class B, and that's Albertville. They're going to play in District 1.
Okay. Ryan, do you know anything about the sections that Sabin and Alexandria joined? I mean, I don't have it up right now.
Yep, I'm looking at it. So we'll go back to Owatonna and Faribault.
Yep.
So they are going to be in Section 1. That's 10 teams, 4 bids, but that one is very daunting with the Rochester Royals, Meesville, Hastings, who's got a young up-and-coming squad, the always tough Dundas Dukes, Jordan's team that he has nightmares about, the Hampton Cardinals.
Oh, boy.
Don't remind me.
Newmarket, Elko, St. Patrick, and then they are going to add Owatonna and Faribault. So, I mean,
That's a tough
four-
section.
4 of 10. That one maybe is a chip in a chair because that's loaded already. Looking at Sabin and Alexandria, they are going to join Elk River, Hibbing, Sartell Muskies, Moorhead Brewers, and Mudcats. Bemidji, the Wilmer Rails, Monticello Polecats, and Alexandria and Sabin will round out. That's 10 teams, 2 bids, and we were talking before we jumped on about Sabin. They signed a college player using their college address, which automatically bumps you to A. But then I start to look at this, and it's like, well, did they do that on purpose? Because Moorhead, there's 2 Moorhead teams. They're right down the road from Moorhead. And it's a little bit of a drive to Alexandria, but they do actually have a couple of teams close by. So maybe that made more sense for them to play A, just based on action looks like.
Right, and if it was not intentional, I mean, maybe they look around and they say, okay, this isn't as bad as maybe we thought. Obviously, the state tournament itself is a whole nother issue, but that district or that section, it just maybe looks a lot more appealing to them.
Well, and are those teams they were going to play anyway, like throughout the regular season? Or is that...
I think so Sabin is our in the rabble. Our friends.
The rabble.
So they would have had the Moorhead teams anyway. I don't know where Alexandria fits. They haven't highlighted. They have them highlighted if they're all in the same league on the website, but they probably just updated this not too long ago, so they don't have a couple of teams highlighted that are all in the same league for Section 8. But yeah, I mean, they might have, and maybe one of the Moorhead teams is hosting sections. Maybe Alexandria is hosting sections, and you're not driving to the ends of the earth for playoffs. But Sabin's got a good squad. There's some tough teams, but it's not doable to get state.
Right.
One of the bigger criticisms, like after all the decisions were, after the gavel had been smashed by the state board, you get a lot of people with kind of that same response of how can they do this? The schedules are in place, the season's already started, and here you are playing, like you're adjusting the puzzle pieces still of all these districts and sections. I mean, when you've got a team being pulled out of a district and putting into a section, that commissioner of that section, do they just say, you have no other option other than to join what we've got going and you're going to just deal with it? I mean, do they sit down and try to now negotiate a better, situation for all teams, or do they just said, you have to deal with what we've got going here?
Well, there's a level, like we've talked about, we've used that word creativity, and we've discussed via text the last couple of weeks, and maybe we brought it up last week with JP, but high school sports kind of goes off of a system where the coaches vote. Like, do you just open up a spreadsheet or Google sheet and everybody's just putting all their schedules in there, and then you can look at these 10 teams and go, oh god, they were 21-7, and this team was 14 and 10, and then you just vote on everybody yourself, or
right.
Talk about quad 1, quad 2, quad 3, which you technically could do. You have you could have, they have X amount of A wins and X amount of B wins and this many C wins. You can get creative with some of the stuff, and they're really going to have to.
They have to,
yeah.
Teams that are made up of 4 or 5. Absolutely.
Yeah, I think about a lot of my high school coach friends. They sometimes they'll go meet up at some bar, halfway to wherever their region is, and they'll say, all right, all the scores are on the table. and they vouch for themselves and they say, this is why we deserve a top 3 seed. And then they vote. And then it's like, well, do we really want to get to that? I mean, they really don't have a lot of other options unless they just decide to stick a team to a lower seed. And we already said last week, that's a dangerous game. So it's, creativity is the the key word here this year. You've got a lot of people there's a lot of uncomfortable situations, and you just kind of have to deal with it. And that's just how this is how the year is going to play out. I mean, honestly, the fact that we're still seeing changes made up until 3 days ago, and who's to say it might not be the last, right? I mean,
Probably
we could
not.
still absolutely
Yeah.
see another burner come out with some accusation.
Well, the burners were on fire about this whole thing, and you could imagine what they were saying. Some playing, defensive a little bit about it too, though. Which
pro state board.
a pro state board burner, which wouldn't think you'd see the day.
In what world?
But right. But I will say this about the moves to different classes here, and we beat it to death with Buffalo on last week's episode. But I think this is a learning opportunity for everybody across the board, whether it's the state board or these teams. You do have to know what your roster consists of, like to a T, because they will make decisions on it, whether you know or not, or whether you think it's right or not. And I think that's something that you have to keep in mind. And with it being a new 3-class system, new old 3-class system, you're really going to have to pay attention to this stuff because the point thresholds are thinner now. And I also think this is why you have to take things, if you're the state board, this is why you have to take things case by case with each team. Because we talked about how, in Saban's case, it was a guy using a college address that played. That's different than Buffalo's situation in that they had guys in Buffalo Township, which they weren't aware that that's different than Buffalo City, and apparently that's the rule. And then in Owatonna and Faribault's case, I don't know those specifically, but if it's just a matter of you're not counting points that you should be counting, well, it's something you should be doing.
Right.
So you kind of have to take each one case by case. I think that's maybe not the most popular way to look at it, but I think it is the fairest.
I do think that ultimately, it lands on each manager and team to not only triple check, but like go over everybody. Even if you don't think you're near that point or that threshold, I think you've got to iron through every individual and just triple, double, triple check. I don't even know, but it's the state board. They're going to take flack for this, and I do think that there is some improvements, and I think they're probably doing some self-reflecting. Things got a little loose here in this spring, and there's a reason for it because it's a new system and you're putting a lot of pressure on teams, and it just I think there was an opportunity to keep some of, like, I look at Buffalo and I think that there was an opportunity to mend the situation, and because I didn't feel that there was any intention behind what they were doing, and that's like it's a little frustrating on that end. But now we know that it is black and white with them, and you have to know that going forward. So
and I think in the NBA handbook or whatever the rules are, whether they're clear or not clear, some rules I think are very just clear, and it's hard to make a mistake on those rules, unless you're doing something intentionally. But then there are others up for debate if it's a verbiage thing.
So here's a good question: do they have they don't have like a disciplinary committee? They just have hardline.
They might
ineligible for playoff type decisions.
Yeah, I mean that's typically the punishment,
right?
What am I trying to say here? Postseason play, you're barred from
ineligible.
Ineligible.
Yeah.
Or bumping a class. Those are typically two punishments that happen.
Yeah, so like in the wording of the penalty, they've got that enforced already. So when I think about that, I mean, I look around and I think that there's certain ways that you can, like an illegal signing, it is really only truly illegal until the player steps foot on the field.
Right. I think once, and I mean, someone can correct me if I'm wrong here, but I think the rule is, well, I know the rule is, if you're going to sign someone and they've previously played for another town team, you have to get a release before you sign them. And that is one of the most black and white, easy to understand rules.
Right.
So if you're, I mean, I've had, guys join my team before that have played for other town teams. And that's the first thing I ask. I'm like, okay, have you played for anybody else? Because there's paperwork we got to fill out. Because you don't want to put them in a bad situation, and you don't want to put your team in a bad situation.
Yeah.
So that's one of the rules that I think is very clear. But I don't know. I feel like the biggest hang up for a lot of people, and I totally understand this, is the timing of it all. Like you said, and like we talked about in previous episodes, the season's already started. Like these teams are, almost all these teams are already underway and playing games, and that sucks because now you have to try to figure this out on the fly. So I think one thing moving forward that the state board can do that would be good for everybody is have very specific dates on these certain things set in stone. And I know that they do have cutoff dates for different roster things, but I guess we got to make those super clear, and like what specifically happens on those days, and then what the penalties are for doing something,
Yeah.
I don't know.
No, I think they're trying to kind of lay the groundwork for that. It felt like there was no leeway. I mean, I feel like as far as maybe the Buffalo representation go, and I know we use them a lot, but we're just so we know their situation the most, and I feel like maybe they went into that meeting, thinking, okay, the decision's been made, but they wanted the state board to know that they didn't feel that, certain steps may have been missed, along the way, and that the state board could have maybe improved their process or been better along the way, and along, ultimately to their penalty. So yeah, and it's interesting. I mean, everything's, when I saw those minutes come through, I was blown away by all the teams that were moving up. I didn't know, beyond Buffalo, I didn't know that there was going to be other, there was rumblings of some teams, but boy, you're talking about almost an entire section now of of B teams that are playing A. They should have thrown them in the. There should be a section of B teams that have gone A.
The misfits.
The reg group, yeah.
Have them play at Angle Inglet.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Send them up to the.
That's the punishment.
The punishment
you're
is
driving 6 hours to get to.
But guess what? You're going to be playing B teams up there for bids.
And we're we're really focusing on these A teams. The one B team that they talk about moving is the Albertville Anglers, which maybe I had heard something about this a while ago, but I thought this was already like a done deal. I didn't know that. I thought that had already happened.
Yeah, I have no
idea. But maybe I don't know. Maybe I heard it from one of the burners that messaged us or something. But they're in that District 1 with Hinckley, Princeton, Chisago Lakes, Isani, North Branch, Cold Spring, the Springers, Sartell Stone Ponies, Sauk Rapids Cyclones, and then the St. Joe's. So that's at least they're in one that geographically makes sense for them. Yeah. But yeah, some of those A teams that got bumped. That's
well, one interesting
waters.
Here is Class A now has 68 teams. Class B has 65. So A has more teams than B, and I didn't know that we were going to get to that.
What does and then what does C have? I think it's
like 140.
100 and 135.
135.
Okay. So A and B pretty close in numbers. C obviously more because there's a ton of smaller towns. But
One last thing on those teams that are going to A. Faribault, Ryan, I think for a long time that they were trying to argue that their prison population affects their city, totals. Did that ever get I guess figured out as to how they were going to be judged?
I don't know. I guess the only way you could do it is see what their population points are, and then see on like Wikipedia or just what so their city population is 24,000.
and
So
how
you don't
many
have
of them are behind bars? 'Cause that's
That's the question.
So 24,000, and so that right there gives you 24 points. Not a ton of wiggle room.
because what is the line? 21. Or
No, B is 20 to 35.
20 to 30.
oh, so 20 is the or you have to be at 19 or less to be C. I got you.
So it looks like, they city of Faribault 24 population points.
Gotcha.
So must use the convicts, the criminals.
They should just try to. Oh, what was that?
They should be able to sign them. They should be able to get it.
I was just gonna say maybe they could just have a field within the prison, and they could actually just start their own team there. I think that'd be a heck of a thing to do. Why not?
You find the best arms in prison,
Well-
and on their start days, you play behind the prison walls.
Well, you just gets a release for a couple hours. What if you got a Rick Wild Thing Vaughn in there?
Yeah.
From the California Penal League.
Yeah.
He just on Sundays he's allowed to go pitch home games only for the Lakers.
That's right. It's like a rehabilitation stint, and that sounds like a great idea.
This feels
Goes
like
around the snowboard.
Yep.
this feels like a spin-off in the making of like The Longest Yard, where like Burt Reynolds or the newer one with Adam Sandler, like instead of a quarterback, one of these guys is a shortstop or something.
They pull up to Hutchinson in the state finals with the bus and chains. I think that would be a great look. That'd be sweet.
The Mean Machine.
That would be awesome. They would be a favorite for sure. All right, enough with the imagination here. We've talked, till we can talk till we're blue in the face about these totals and these teams moving. It's an ongoing process. It's never going to stop. I guarantee next year we're going to see the same thing because mistakes tend to happen. That's just how we're going to have to live our town ball lives. I just, if you listen, do your best to just continually just scan that roster and just double check and triple check, and never, if someone comes out and says, I've got a release, don't trust the kid, dig into it even more.
You gotta contact that manager then from their former team and be like, hey, can you make sure this is happening? Like, do your due diligence, do everything you can to make sure that you're, intentionally or not, hopefully not intentionally, but make sure you're not breaking these rules.
Right.
You reach out to the state board. You reach out to Gerhardt and be like, do you have any paperwork on this guy? Have you ever heard of him? And if they come back and say, no, he's clear to sign, well, then then you. It all it takes is a couple phone calls.
Right, and
that's a great point.
Or email it, and you're covered then, because if there's a paper trail of Joe state board member saying, go ahead and sign him, and you sign him, and wait a second, you can go, hey, guess what?
Okay.
Gary Klepper okayed it.
Ooh.
Oh yeah.
People forget that the state board, they're very responsive to any question and any sort of whether it's about player points or even just really anything. If you've got a question, fire away. They'll usually respond within the day, and they can clarify something that maybe is a little muddy in your eyes, and it's just, to have peace of mind is a big deal, and you just don't want to be one of those teams that are bit by the point bug here,
right?
And end up being elevated a class that you're not interested in playing in. But yeah, the state board is for as much as we like to dog on them, and some people like to continually dog on them, they have done a really good job, in the last couple decades of really developing the town ball together. So
I had a personal experience with this with my team, where I had what I thought maybe was a simple question, but then I was second guessing myself because I see all of this stuff happening and teams moving, and I just don't want to screw up.
Yeah.
I had a question about making players active versus inactive and what that means and dates on that and how that all works. Sent the email through the website. I got an email back, I think, in like 20 minutes.
Yeah.
So yeah, like they want you to reach out. It's way better that you reach out instead of just guessing.
Yes.
So what was your question then, Jordan? Or is it something you might get in trouble for?
No, I won't get in trouble because I reached
Paper
out
trail.
and asked.
Paper
There's a
trail.
paper trail. No, I just there's some players we have under contract that players we have under contract that aren't like they're not going to be around this summer. Should I make them inactive? And then if they come back next year, make them active again. They're not planning to play anywhere else. Anything like that. So my question was basically just like, well, what are the dates that I can make players active versus inactive? Because I didn't want to be past a deadline or out of range of that.
And to remind our audience too, Ryan, is that June 30th?
Well, Jordan must have got an answer, but I've always understood it as June 30th.
Right.
I'll look in my email.
I think
now.
that is the last day.
Last you can sign a player, last day you can make somebody active. So if somebody randomly does come back to you, or you have a guy who goes, I'm going to go play out in wherever for the summer, and then all of a sudden, boom, they show up on June 28th, you can just, boom, make them active, and they're good to go.
Right.
As long as they already had a contract, and I think that's kind of what Jordan's talking about. Maybe one of these guys has a change of heart, and they come back to town, or who knows what happens, and then, as long as it's before June 30th, boom, they're active, and go Saints.
Yeah, that's right. No, I think that I mean, you may be digging for info now, Jordan, but I think that's kind of the big date. The June 30th is pretty widely known as that last opportunity. So
you have here was answers that I got back. It was once a player is active beyond April 15th, so that date we talked about previously, they are a points player. If they're college or pro or outside of your population, whatever you choose to use. You can move a player from inactive to active or vice versa after April 15th, but the points are the points then for the year. So like I can make a guy inactive this year. There's still, it doesn't mean I can drop a class this year or whatever it is, but then it would apply next year depending on what I do with that player. And then, just like the roster cutoff date, which is the June 30th, that's just, you can't make roster moves after that anyway. So
that's kind of interesting because that their answer doesn't make a lot of sense to me, but whatever. I'm just being honest. That doesn't make any sense. The guy doesn't play one pitch for you, then how is he points?
Well, because they based
not
this year's
on your
point totals off last year, though, right?
Why would they do it off of
It's
last? Yeah, they do it off of last year, but if the guy didn't play for you last year, he was all so what you're saying is if he is inactive on your roster last year and he was 3 points, that 3 points goes against you. He wasn't on your playoff roster, he didn't play a single game. I hope that's nuts.
No. If they weren't active last year, they wouldn't count. To my understanding, it's just like if I had a guy let's say I had a guy on my roster last year, he was active all year on the playoff roster, and then I start this season with him active, and then he tells me late, I'm not going to be around this summer, so then I make him
April
inactive,
15th,
and it's after the April 15th date. Well, they've already counted because
count.
They were active all of last year. No, it wasn't. No, you bring up good, valid points if that were the situation, but no, that's not what it is. It's if they were active and you're making them inactive.
Gotcha.
Good. See, sometimes you just got to talk it out. And Ryan will probably email a state board member tonight for clarification.
He's going to email the board and say, the Saints, they're doing some dirty stuff.
Somebody audit that roster right now.
You got another A team.
Yeah, another A team in Dassel.
You know what? Put us with Saban, and we'll head up towards Moorhead. And
you're going to play it. You're going to play in the Angle Inlet.
Spend the summer up north.
Yeah. All right. Well, let's move on here. We just wanted to go over just some scores that we saw leading up to, through this weekend. Our town ball schedule guy, he has been very active on Twitter, updating scores. Some notables. Anything stand out to you immediately, Jordan? I mean, we were going all the way back to the 7th of May.
I think there was one thing that stands out is there were a few teams that scored like 20 runs or more. So maybe we want to highlight those.
Yeah, I mean, the more I look at these scores, I see a lot of 10-run rulings. I think early spring baseball, there's a lot of uncertainty, a lot of volatility. Some of these rosters, you might be missing 3, 4, 5, 6 guys that are going to be, reinforcements, you could call them in June. They're finally getting back and to join the roster. So some of these matchups, I mean, I look at, it looks like Maple Lake is already humming. They put up 20 against Roscoe on the 10th. Bully ball. New York Mills had a doubleheader against Vergas. They went 15-3, and then they kind of cooled the Jets. They only won 5-1.
Opal 27 over Flensburg with 4.
We got to look into this Opal offense. I mean, geez, 27 runs off of.
I think that was the high score I saw, and then Piers, the Lakers, had a 23-3 win. So,
Ryan, if you're coming out in May and you're losing a game by, say, I don't know, 24 runs, what do you tell the guys?
Hey, I did a really bad job scheduling. We should have waited to start.
Wait a week.
That's on me. Is it
do you hammer out a couple games in May, or do you maybe bite the bullet and play a few 4-game weeks in June? I don't know.
That's more of my style. I'm always afraid if I schedule. I mean, late April is off the board for me completely. If I schedule an early May game, people are gonna question. Okay, you knew a lot of our college guys aren't going to be back. Well, what the heck are we thinking? We're going to get our bench a lot of run, and sometimes those games can get ugly. They can get out of hand, and we're seeing that with a couple of our scores. But otherwise, Jordan 12-1 over Gaylord. Jackson, the Jackson Bulls 16-0 over our Heron Lake Lakers. In the CRVL, we had Glencoe beating Winstead 5-2. Delano, Ryan, a game you weren't able to be in attendance of. I know that we could even kind of maybe cover what was going on. I know you're obviously over the phone right now. Did you want to just give us just like a super quick life update? Yeah.
So and you'll notice I won't be on the interview with Bucky because it's hard to have a multiple way call. And
right.
My daughter, we had to go down to Children's Hospital middle of last week. Her appendix burst on her. So
wow.
She's 9. She was tough. She basically borderline looked at the surgeon and said, just knock me out and get it out.
Get it over with. And
get it over with.
So
I want it out now. So we were 5 nights, 6 days down at Children's. They were amazing. I mean, I had literally had to get like 3 bags to bring all the goodies they give her home. But yeah, couple nights after the surgery to pump in the antibiotics, and she's home. She's chilling. She's watching Disney Plus. But yeah, we had an interesting week, and I appreciate you guys being flexible.
There's that word.
I missed the town team game. I haven't been with my high school team in multiple days. So, we're hopefully, tried to squeeze this in when we could.
Well, life takes front seat, and you're dealing with that, and it sounds like we're in recovery mode, and I'm sure she'll be joining you at some town ball games here soon.
Yeah, so we got Green Isle this Sunday, so I wouldn't be surprised if she wasn't, running around, but just gotta no rough housing.
No rough housing. Yep, we still got a little bit of recovery to get through. But we mentioned Delano 9, Carver 0. Pitching has been a strength so far.
Yeah, I mean, we got Kay Brewitt through the other day for us. Nice having a kid who logged, I think, over 30 innings for University of Wisconsin River Falls. So you get a guy coming in with his arms in shape, and he can give you 7 right out of the gate, which was pretty nice. So
that's huge.
That's
to be able to do that.
Yeah,
somebody who's been throwing a baseball since January and pitching against live hitters to just do it, right away was a big help. Otherwise, you're committing it for the first couple games.
Right. Sunday we saw Plato play at Green Isle, and Plato put out their ace Schwartz, and I think I saw his line was like 6 innings and 14 strikeouts or something like that. I mean, he is
right back up where he left off.
This guy is a problem, and I mean, you look at Green Isle, and I think that they've dropped a few games early, and just like that that grouping of B in the CRVL is it's quite a gauntlet. There's really not a lot of easy games out there. So we're going to keep an eye on Plato. St. James 17-0 over Fairfax, another big scoring game. St. Patrick coming out hot 14-3 over Union Hill. Let's see. Any other things stand out to you guys on
Hampton at Cannon Falls? We didn't touch on that yet, did we?
No, I don't think so.
So it looks like Hampton had a forfeit in that game. Is that like a league game
That
for them?
That was tweeted out as technically a forfeit.
So maybe they didn't have the guys for that game at Cannon Falls, and they just took the loss.
Yeah, I think we ran into it a few years ago in the North Star League. I think one of the teams wasn't going to field enough players, and I think they reached out to the other team, and the other team said, "We're just going to take the win 9-0." So I don't know Cannon Falls situation at all. Just that I know a couple Cannon Falls guys, but yeah, it's so. I think that one goes down. I don't think it goes down as a 9-0 win for Cannon. That is true.
Sure. Another couple games here to go over. Bluffton, a doubleheader against Clarissa. They win 13-1 and 10-0. New Ulm Brewers 14-0 over Essig. Another good start for the Brewers down in New Ulm. And Sartell Muskies 5, Watkins 1. Roscoe 13-3 over Farming. I know Farming was in a lot of the Class C rankings, and deservedly so. Roscoe putting a 10-run rule on Farming, but
Was
once
that
again,
before or after the Maple Lake game?
well, yeah, that's a good question. I don't know.
Wait, it probably was after.
Sure.
The other thing we got to take into consideration with these rural teams, it's planting season, so you can't take a lot of stock in
That is
somebody.
true.
Maybe best pitcher guy or best hitter guy was out in the combine all day on Sunday. It was a nice day. So.
And you got to assume if your town's name is literally a verb for agriculture, you are farming. You may be farming.
Yep.
So we will take that into consideration. Sobieski 13, Foley 0. I just think that there's going to be some wild scores here. I think when we get into later May and for sure into June, then you start putting a little bit more, I guess, importance into some of these finals. I think it's a little early. You might have a couple, I think of a lot of the community college guys, the St. Cloud Techs, the Century guys, these are guys that are still battling out in their regions. They're nowhere near their town ball team yet. So I think you'd probably see in the next 2 to 3 weeks, rosters really start to come together. So we're not gonna put all of our eggs in these baskets quite yet, but some interesting scores early on, and just fun to see all these games being played. Once you put all these scores, the town ball schedule guy, once he compiles all these, you start to realize, holy smokes, on Sunday, I can't even put a number to it. There had to have been 50, 55, 60 games, and we hit the ground running. And that's on Mother's Day. I mean, some people love playing on Mother's Day. Some teams, they stay away from it, but a lot of baseball being played. Ryan, do you have any other things you want to go over before we jump into our interview with?
Nope, I think I'm covered.
You're covered. Awesome. Like we said, Ryan will not be joining us for the interview. It'll be Jordan and I, and we are excited for our guest. Without further ado, here is Bucky Burgau. All right, we are back now with our interview, and today we have a pretty special guest. Especially for me, I know this fella pretty well. I've spent a lot of my college years up in Concordia, but Bucky Burgau, good to have you with us today.
Thank you, John. I appreciate it. I look forward to it.
Yeah. We were happy to get you on board here. It's funny because we obviously have this town ball podcast, and I think you're mainly you're known, or you're infamous for coaching the Cobber baseball team. And can you just first go over how many years were you coaching there with Concordia?
Okay, I was the head coach for 37, and actually I'm still involved. Not as a head anymore. I'm one of the assistants, and I take care of the baseball field and the softball field, and I do all the laundry for both baseball and softball. So I'm still pretty much involved with the baseball program. I just finished this last spring as my 48th year, so it's been a good long haul.
Yeah, awesome. Wow. You mentioned you've done maybe on the equipment side of things at Concordia College. That's where I got to meet you, and I was just a little old football player up at Concordia, and I got to see you every day. And obviously, if I had any ounce of mud on me, you would give me a pretty mean look. Or are you still as harsh on the guys that decide to run through the mud?
No. Well, I'm not. I haven't been involved in football now since Terry Horan took over. So
sure.
That part of my life probably saved a few years of my life. So yeah, that did tick me off when the seniors would make you guys slide through that ditch out there full of mud. So.
Well, and then of course the addition of the turf football field and getting away from the practice field that sat back there probably saved a lot of headaches for the equipment and laundry folk up there. So that it's just a great little era of my life. And I think now I kind of want to go back, because obviously we have you on here because you have a tie to amateur baseball, and multiple ties, a big network. And do you want to just kind of get us started where you mentioned your town ball story may have begun before you were even in elementary school?
Yeah, well, my mom and dad, because of me, had to get married. That's just the way things were. So they were married at a really, really young age, 18.
Oh, wow.
And my dad grew up on a farm all of his life. In fact, because he had to stay and work on the farm, he only finished 8 years of school.
Oh.
But he and Uncle Stub Stub was a tad bit younger than him.
Sure.
Were both really good baseball players back in Meadow Township. And then he played for Monaga.
Okay.
But Dad moved the family, so did Uncle Stub, to Perham, because in those days, and amateur baseball is still really big, and I'm really
Huge.
proud of what Minnesota does with that. But back in those days, I mean, that was before golf greens had greens, and there was golf wasn't real big, so it wasn't unusual to get 500, 600, 700 people at a Sunday night game.
Yeah.
So Dad got a job in the Perham Creamery so that he could play baseball for the Perham Pirates. Stubb got a job at Canoodles Marine so that he could play baseball for Perham.
Sure.
Al Stigman got a job at Land O'Lakes in Perham so he could play. So obviously Perham wanted to win a lot of baseball games.
Yeah, these are.
In fact, I could remember when I was in grade school, there was hardly a teacher that got hired in Perham that wasn't a baseball player. That obviously can't happen today.
Well,
So,
yeah, it's funny because that gets tossed around a lot. I think in town ball circles is find some talented town ball players and offer them jobs. Some of these guys are teachers. Why the heck are we not offering them jobs? They could win us a state title. So that gets joked about, but you say in the past that was more of a reality.
that happened. That's the way it was. They wanted to win baseball games. They wanted to beat New York Bills. They wanted to beat Wadena or whoever was, going to give us the competition. So my amateur days started when I was 3. Not as a player, obviously, but I was in the dugout, shagging bats, learning the game.
Of course.
Getting yelled at by the older guys if I wasn't paying attention.
Of course.
So I was indoctrinated really quickly into the culture of baseball and winning baseball. Many times Perham went to the state tournament. Back in those days, it was just Class A, which had very few teams out of the cities, along with Winona, and the rest of the state was all Class B.
Right.
Got it.
So I was indoctrinated into that really early. Then fast forward just a little bit, I was still shagging bats. One Sunday afternoon when I was 14, we went to play in Burndale. They didn't have lights, so it was a Sunday afternoon game.
Okay.
Only 8 guys showed up, which sometimes happens in
boy.
amateur, because I think one of those guys that didn't show up was my dad, because Sunday was his shift that week at the creamery.
Sure.
So they signed me quickly to a contract. So I played as 14. Well, that Sunday afternoon, I'm going to pat myself on the back a little bit. I went 5 for 5 with a home run. And the home run was off Baldy Waldo, the old Ferndale guy. And that was the last day that I was ever considered a bat boy. From then on,
Oh, man.
You made a great first impression as a player.
I mean, talk about setting a bar pretty high.
And you kind of have your dad to thank for that then, for not showing up so you could get into the lineup.
Probably, and go to the next year, we won our way to the state tournament. And I remember playing that state tournament. I think it was against St. Bonnie. We ended up losing like 4-3, 5-3. We played at that old Rock Stadium in St. Cloud.
Oh.
Yeah.
And to be honest with you, when we drive through St. Cloud, now I can't even tell you where that stadium was, but I remember it being, to me, like I was in the big leagues. They had a concrete or wooden fence all the way around it. It just, in a big grandstand, it just felt great.
Yeah.
The next year, I was 16. We won the High 10 playoffs. We won the regional, and the state tournament was in Belle Plaine.
Okay.
The Al Stigman, who just passed away about a month ago, was the left-handed pitching superstar for us. He ended up being the MVP for that state tournament, mainly as a pitcher, but he could hit too.
Wow.
I don't know if this is before your time, but his older brother, Dick, pitched in the big leagues for the Twins.
Oh, wow.
All right.
And everybody says growing up that Al was way better than he. But Al got married at a young age too, and he had to take care of a family, so amateur baseball was his thing. Anyway, we got to the final game of that state tournament. We were playing Brownton. My dad was on the team with me. So we had a Don Burgau and a Don Burgau Jr. That's my real name, by the way. Nobody calls me that.
No secrets
but
here.
Our unusual twist, we had Max West and a Max West Jr. on the Brownton team.
Ooh, father-son versus father-son?
Yeah, father-son. But So we're up 5-4, ninth inning, runners on first and second. Stigman's pitching out of the bullpen. Ground ball to me at second. There was 2 outs. Ground ball to me at second. I threw it to my dad playing first base for the final out of the state championship
Oh
game.
man, how cool is that?
What a moment.
And I'll say this. I mean, so Bucky, just to clarify, what year, what state? Not to age you or anything, but what year was that state tournament win?
1966 in Belle Plaine.
Wow, history. That's crazy. I mean, it's just what's fun about that, and you telling us about that final out and making that final out. Jordan Flick here had the opportunity to be drafted a couple years ago by Maple Lake, and he was in for the 9th inning for the final out pitching. Mm-hmm. And Jordan, you kind of a unique situation too, because you had an old teammate that you were throwing to. Yeah. Not to say it was your dad, but you had a close.
No, my dad can't catch like this guy can, but or at all. But yeah, I got to I was on the mound in the 9th, got the final out, popped a guy up to right field, and got to get on a dog pile with a former teammate of mine in Dassel Cokato, Matt Bergstrom, who now plays for Maple Lake.
Sure.
So,
Matt was a Cobber. Yeah.
Yep, Matt was a Cobber. I think there's a lot of Cobber connections here too, because Matt was a Cobber. We had Bryce Bergeron played for us, and he went there.
Yep.
My dad was a Cobber. John Reaver.
I was in the crowd. I was a Cobber.
Yeah, and then and all the way through my younger brothers. My younger brother Cy, he played with the Cobbers too. So,
but I just want to say how cool it is to have that final, that connection, because you're putting a lot of time and effort into. You're obviously a pretty successful team there, and to have that, you that window where it's not often you can play with your dad and your dad be like actually a contributor. Some of these teams. Yep. Like you said, Bucky, your dad he was pretty young when he had you, so you had a little window where you could play ball. Had to be a pretty special moment. I mean, you talk about it like it happened yesterday. It probably is pretty crystal clear in your mind. You'll never forget that.
No, that's true. It's that was 1966. Was obviously a lot of years ago. The nice thing is that group of guys, we've lost my dad, my uncle, Al Stigman, a couple other guys. So when we do get together, we don't need as big a room anymore. But we do get together every 4 or 5 years and talk about some good things in baseball. And so, but yeah, it's. I still a lot of my family, my brother and sister live in Perham, so I do get back there, especially in August when the region tournament is played.
Sure.
That's really been fun for me, and I don't know what the new structure is going to do for that regional, or if they moved it or something.
We've tried to keep up on our northern teams, especially, and it's kind of a year of change, a lot of transitioning going on, but for the most part up north, and especially that high 10, I don't think that there's a lot of movement. I know Bluffton moved to a new class, but otherwise a lot of C-ball up there. We talked about Perham's Field in one of our earlier episodes. Is that field that's there sitting right now with that grandstand? That's the original field that you played on?
Yes, it was. It was the fair. All we called it was the fairground field back in those days, and the grandstand was rebuilt because the wood was rotting and stuff. But they built it exactly like it was.
Right. That it's almost like a tall brick backstop. Was that kind of how it was?
Yeah, it's a covered stadium, and and the reason it was such a good grandstand it was used by the fair for a long time for a tractor pulling contest.
Oh, larger events.
But anyway, back in those days, to add to the grandstand story, back in those days, Class B played Class A for the mythical state championship.
The mythical.
And that was that's what they called it. I don't know if that's even the right word.
Right. I mean, you could almost say like, the true state champion or something like that.
Well, we played Winona, at our place before 1,800 people.
Holy smokes.
They beat us. There was a kid from Modena that had pitched at Winona State, beat us 4-3. But it was my first run-in with Max Moloch, the longtime baseball coach at St. Mary's.
Okay.
And of course, over the years, and then Max, died. But over the years, many years, Max and I had reminisced about that game, obviously, and him and Jim Dimmick from St. Olaf became really important figures in my college career, especially early. They kind of showed me the ropes and took me under their wing. So, small world, and I think the good Lord makes things happen for a reason, and that was certainly one of those right there.
Yeah, you talk about all these names and kind of how they're connected to you. I mean, if it wasn't for town ball, your network wouldn't be anywhere near the size of what it was. I mean, you got into college baseball. Did you try to play even when you were playing or when you were started coaching?
Yeah. Well, my first of all, I'll go back a little bit. My first, like you said, without town ball, I wouldn't have been coaching anywhere probably.
Sure.
It just lit a fire in me, and I knew at a pretty young age that if I didn't advance at the playing level in baseball, and it became pretty obvious when I was 18 or 19 that wasn't going to happen, that I wanted baseball to be a part of that. So my first I coached, while I was in college and playing for the Pirates, I coached the Perham Legion team for a number of years.
Sure.
And then I got the job in Moorhead in 73 and coached the Blues along with the Cobbers for 27 years. But 73, 74, while I was starting to coach the Blues, and I played for a team in Fargo called Fargo Glass and Paint.
Okay.
Because, with the schedule we were playing with the Blues, there was no way I could drive back and forth to Perham.
Yep.
So then 74, because of the schedule we were playing, playing baseball anymore just wasn't in the cards. I wanted to play a schedule like of 45, 50 games. I wanted to learn how to manage a pitching staff and just the everyday thing of running a team where it was going to be baseball, not every day, but just about every day. So that's kind of where I quit playing. I didn't give up throwing the ball. I still throw batting practice today.
Oh, of course.
But yeah, I did quit playing at a pretty young age.
Sure. And then so you start your college coaching career, and that obviously goes up till today. Like you said, you're still in a role in some capacity. How have you, I guess, throughout your years, you've seen a lot of kids come through, your locker room. Town ball, has that been something that you've always said, have you always pushed on your kids if they have the opportunity to stay, active in a summer?
At Concordia, we get a lot of different players, a lot from Minnesota, but we also get a lot, obviously, from North Dakota. They're right across the river.
Sure.
I brag up Minnesota amateur baseball, John, like you wouldn't believe.
I believe it.
Because I really believe it. That there's some unique things that happen with Minnesota town ball. First of all, the mileage radius is really unique as far as keeping the level playing field,
sure.
First of all. And you get that small town excitement, enthusiasm.
The pride, yeah.
That I think, you when I go to these region tournaments that have been in Perham, and over the years, Bluffton's played there, Wolf Lake has played there, the small town pride that they bring to those games, especially at tournament time, is really fun. Like Midway, for example, flies the Finnish flag above their dugout because they're all Finns.
The Snurd birds.
So that to me is wonderful, and it I do follow the state tournament because a lot of our cover players playing wherever are in it.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously, some played for the Moorhead Mudcats and a few played for the Moorhead Brewers.
Of course.
So I follow all those games, and I follow the attendance and all of those things. And I know guys from the past that are in their 70s that I would have played against or were growing up. They still go to that state tournament if it's close enough for them to travel.
Of course, yeah.
And so I forgot to bring one other thing up. The next year, 67, with the state tournament was in Alec.
Okay.
Same format, Class A, Class B. We got to the final game of the state tournament in Alexandria. We were playing Arlington, and we rallied to tie it in the bottom of the ninth. John Balk, who my dad wasn't playing anymore, was one of our first basemen, good baseball player.
Yep.
And he hit a home run, 2-run homer to tie it.
Oh, man.
We ended up, well, listen to this, we ended up, bases loaded, nobody out, 1 run, and we won it 2 years in a row. Jim Stahl was on the mound, Stahl, I think, was on the mound for Arlington. The catcher was Larry Hageman. And I'll never forget this, John, as long as I live. This is why I don't trust umpires today. We had thrown Larry Hageman out twice at second base. Well, I was playing second. My glove was between him and his foot and the base, and this old-time umpire called him safe both times.
Oh, no.
But anyway, I don't think that meant that ended to the final score because we did have the bases juiced, nobody out. We were at the 7th spot in our lineup, 3-2 count. Jim Stahl, former AAA pitcher, threw a curveball that hit the top of the plate.
Oh.
Our guy swung at it.
Oh.
Strike 3. Ground ball back to the pitcher, ground ball to second base. We go to the 10th. They hit a home run to go ahead, and they beat us in extra
Oh,
innings.
my gosh. So,
Tank Larson from Waseca, I'm sure you guys all know.
oh, of
this guy.
course.
Yep.
He remembered that game pitch for pitch. Only Tank could. And then I got the name of Larry Hageman and a cell phone number. So I haven't called him yet because it's just happened the other day.
Sure.
But I'm going to call Larry, and the first thing out of my mouth is that you were out at second base. But it'll be a fun conversation, I'm sure. And it was
Of course.
just really, it was my first experience, too. I was going to go to school at Fergus Falls Community College, which I did.
Sure.
But there was still a week or two before school started. I was working for a construction guy in Perham. It's called Hammers Construction.
Mm-hmm.
And he was at the game. He said, Bucky, you don't need to come into work in the morning. Come in at noon or 1 o'clock. And that was fine because I was tired. We didn't get home till late.
Yep.
But the Friday, we always got our checks on Friday. And it was for 40 hours, the full amount.
Mm.
I took the check back. I said, Bob, this is too much. I didn't work Monday morning. No, you earned that Sunday night.
He's looking out for you. Oh,
Yeah, he
man.
was.
Well,
So-
gosh.
It seems to me that you paint such an awesome picture for us. We were obviously weren't at these games, but you paint it as if we were watching it live. And I think it's fair to say that Town Ball has made a lasting impression on you. And I think that that's probably something for you as a college coach. You want your college players to make those same memories that you did.
Yes, I do. And a lot of them are. Obviously, football comes into the equation there sometimes if
Sure.
they're playing college football. But, yeah, they are. And just like any part in Minnesota, there's so many good players playing amateur baseball. I'm really proud of Minnesota amateur baseball. I really, really am.
Absolutely.
That's awesome.
No, it's so cool to hear the older stories and the fact that you have such a crystal clear recollection. It's really fun to listen to. I wanted to ask too about the park up in Moorhead. I know that since I had been going to school, I graduated 2011 from Concordia, and the field had just kind of started getting some things going on it. You did some infield turf, and then the big plan was eventually, expand the grandstand. Can you first tell us when did the park up there? When did they officially change it to? Is it Bucky Burgau Field?
Yeah. That was the same year that we got the turf infield the first time.
Mm-hmm.
No, I take that back. We got the turf infield in 2010.
Okay.
So the field was named the They must have been hard up for names, John. But,
Yeah, right.
the field was named in 2014.
Okay, great. No, I mean, find another guy with a bigger impact to their program than you. I mean, that's a crazy stretch of leading that group. And like I said, that field has really gone over some really nice renovations. Obviously, being kind of close to the football renovations as well. But
and a brand new track, and the football field turf was replaced last year. We're getting close to having to replace the infield. We've been on it now for 15 years. It's still not bad. Of course, I'm out there every day.
Mm-hmm.
But here's our long-range plan. We got a nice grandstand. Press box is named Sonny Gold's Big Press Box.
Very cool.
Roof on the grandstand. Brand new dugouts, and we made them huge, John.
Oh, love it. Guys love big dugouts. Yeah.
Yeah. And our goal is when we do replace the infield, we want to do the outfield too.
Okay.
But there's some old school stuff going to happen here.
Old school.
Hope. Yeah. Well, right now we have $1 million in the bank. We need 600,000 more to do both projects.
Sure.
But in the right field corner and the left field corner, it's going to be marked for Little League baseball.
Oh yes, that's so cool.
So on a given Little League night, Moorhead Youth Baseball rents it in the summer. Babe Ruth kids mainly. But we do get some, because of the turf, we do get some Little League teams out there.
Sure.
So on a given Little League night, once we get the two fields in each corner, we could play 3 Little League games out there at the same time.
Oh, man.
That is so cool.
So and Moorhead has done some things in youth baseball to improve their fields, but it's not really where I and a lot of people would not like it to be yet.
Okay. Yeah.
So we could host tournaments, both Babe Ruth age plus Little League tournaments. It just could be a real fun atmosphere and really good for baseball up in this neck of the woods.
Yeah,
so that's where we're at. The hard thing is, and not the hard thing is, our softball field is nice, but it's not turf. We need to get that turf for the ladies too, if we can.
Sure.
So that hopefully someday soon, we got a great new young president that is full of great ideas. That's all in for sports. And,
that's great.
so we're excited about the future, and hopefully we can get that done.
Yeah, absolutely. It's fun to see the strides that are being made up there. And we always talk about our Moorhead friends up there. They're obviously kind of isolated. They're far away. There's distance, and the fact that they're still trying to town ball. Once you get to regions and you get to state, they're having to drive. We hosted the Moorhead Mudcats 2 years ago. I had Tommy Horan playing ball at Optimus Park in Litchfield, and It was fun to have that crew down there, even though they were only there for a game, but dedicated group. And there is a lot of good baseball up in that area, and I just hope that it continues to develop. I was gonna say, do you miss the old sardine can of a locker room you had before the new one?
You know what I think of? When I think of the old locker room, and I think of all the extra hours that I had to put in because I was the first one there and the last one to leave.
Right.
We didn't have automatic locking doors, so I had to stay there until every one of you idiots left and locked it with a key. Well, now the new building that locks behind everybody so I can leave.
Oh,
but
man.
what I do really miss, John, is the relationships. I have so many football players that are really, really good friends of mine.
Absolutely.
Just fun. In fact, we had the Finn Grinacher tournament today.
You did?
And that was, they moved it up to May. They missed a year. And heck, Dwight Hittermeister was there. There was just a bunch of guys there, and it's really,
which is
really fun to touch
a baseball fundraiser, or is it? Remind me, is that the baseball fundraiser?
This is the general athletic department fundraiser, because Finn was football coach, wrestling coach, and just Mr. Everything, like all those guys were.
Of course.
And so we do have our baseball one in August. So we've been holding it in Sauk Center this year in August. I don't know the exact date. It's being held in Moorhead Country Club. So.
But you said you'd have those relationships with former players. Obviously, it's kind of a revolving door. But for those 4 years that those guys are there, they get to know you, and I think about when I drop off my dirty whatever clothes or
I
pads or
think we had
whatever.
a laundry bag or loops or whatever.
Yep. And I drop it in, and sometimes it would be, you and Pebbles, or you and some younger worker that probably wasn't earning enough for what they had to do there. It was just a fun time, even if it was a minute or two that we would get to connect. And it's funny because we were in that football environment, and now here we are talking town ball and something that you had a big history with. And if I would have known more back then, I think we could have talked for a lot more hours on Perm baseball.
That would have been fun.
Knowing
I was unique with the football team because it was unique for me because I wasn't a coach.
Mm-hmm.
So I could treat you guys and tease you guys different than the coaches did, which I took full advantage of.
Without the gloves. That was good.
Yeah.
Exactly. No, I think if you ask anybody coming through especially with the football team, you're a favorite up there, and that's why everyone knows who you are. You could ask around anybody from a lot of communities if they have any sort of overlap with Moorhead or, obviously Perm. I'm sure that they have a very good relationship with you, and it's fun to just get the stories that you've got and take that all in, because it's really fun, and we appreciate all that good stuff that you're still bringing to the table.
Well, thank you. I appreciate that.
Yeah, absolutely. So, Bucky, what's the plan then for Concordia? You're staying on as an assistant? You're obviously still pushing the progression of the stadium. Do you think you're staying on board for as long as you for the foreseeable future?
As long as I can fling it across home plate, throwing BP.
Are you still hitting 80, 85?
Oh yeah, I'm hitting fungos, and but the real fun part for me is throwing BP. I'm 75, so I don't think there's too many 75-year-olds throwing BP. I'm sure
Probably not a lot.
There.
Probably not a lot though.
No, and that's good for me. Every pitch I throw is a 5-step process, 2 up, 3 back. So when I'm done throwing for my 30, 40 minutes, my steps are up there pretty good.
Oh, absolutely.
So yeah, I'm going to keep doing that. And my daughter, Rachel Bergerson, is the athletic director.
Mm-hmm.
So we only get in a couple of stare downs a week, but so it helps to have her on board. And I know she's real cognizant of all the programs as far as equity and stuff like that.
Of course. But
we have a good working relationship, and I'm going to hang around as long as I can help on the field.
Absolutely. She's pro baseball, she's pro athletics. She's not biased, right? She's just very pro baseball.
Yeah. You bet.
I love to see the updates, because I think it looks like you have some grandchildren that are coming up through some youth teams.
Yeah, actually I'm out here watching one. We have Jennifer's as a senior that's playing, Austin Schwantz, second baseman, that 2 in the lineup for the Spuds.
For the Spuds.
Awesome. Yeah, he's a senior. He's going to go to Concordia, not play baseball. He's actually going to work for Jim Sella, our sports information.
Oh, Jim Sella. I know him well.
Rachel's boys are baseball hockey. In fact, if you watch the Spuds in the state tournament, Rachel's son, Tyden, number 23, actually was on that team and played well.
Oh, wow.
After the season, he went to Madison in the USHL, so he's got a little bit of a decision to make as far as playing USHL next year or come back for high school. I hope that he comes back for high school for his last year. He's got plenty of time to play USHL, but those kids get kind of impatient. And I have a 7th grader that's a baseball hockey guy.
Oh boy! So
all
you're
left-hand hitters.
Oh my gosh! You are staying busy.
He's not playing baseball this spring, and he's a very good baseball player. But he didn't feel it was right to the team when he went to Madison.
Gotcha.
To come back halfway through the season and start and take somebody's spot. So, and it's a very mature decision. But he chose his sport, and he actually not a year ago, but 10 months ago, got a full ride to Augustana and Sioux Falls for hockey.
So, wow. So you're the athletic genes are making their way down the family tree here.
This is a true story. My oldest daughter, Jennifer, married Craig Schwantz from Pelican Rapids. He was a pitcher. And I tell you, he couldn't run a lick. He could not run a lick. I
Yep.
told Rachel, speed, baby, speed. And she did. Probably not by design, but look what happened.
Yeah, this is exactly this. You're producing the next generation of ball players and hockey players. We love to see it. No, that's exciting. I'm sure you get to watch a lot of games. Not only are you managing, but you're spectating a lot up there now.
Yeah, and I stay away. I try not to, I'll give positive feedback.
Yeah.
I remember reading things years ago, someplace in a book, might have even been Matheny's Manifesto.
Okay.
Have you read that book, Matheny's Manifesto, Youth Baseball?
No, I haven't. Not personally.
Read it. Holy buckets. Anyway.
Okay. We'll have a little book club with that.
I remember reading, I think, in that book that when you're giving a young athlete a ride home, following a game or practice, the only thing you need to say, I really enjoyed watching you play.
Absolutely.
You don't bring up the negative. You don't even need to bring up the positive. Just I really had fun watching you play today.
Huh.
That's all.
Yeah.
So that's what I do. Positive reinforcement. If there's something out of whack, that I think's out of whack, where one of them didn't run hard to first base or something like that, I might a day or two later in a good way say,
Sure.
hey.
Approach it that way.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Very cool. Yeah, and I mean that's really cool. It's funny because I think that's why you're so liked, Bucky, is because you're very thoughtful with anybody, and you're very personable with everyone, and you always seem to remember something about somebody. So they appreciate that, and that's why you've had as much success as you have. And even, it's tough. Even in the town ball atmosphere, the generational divides. I mean, the younger kids that are coming up and playing ball, you can't treat them the same way that you used to. And I think you've probably seen that, and you've probably had to adjust. And I'm sure that you've done well with that, because even young guys that I've ran into have only had really good things to say about you. And you probably were you ever the disciplinarian?
There were times, we had to have a meeting.
Sure.
In 37 years, not everything over the years is ever going to be perfect.
Of course.
With what happens, and sometimes it might have been alcohol or whatever, but
you got to get a little stern there.
Yeah. There was times, but no, I don't know. I honestly don't know, John, but I think I was a player's coach.
Sure. I
really do. I enjoyed being around the guys. Penny and I enjoy the relationships we have with the former players yet today. So we enjoy that part of it.
Absolutely. Well, boy, we definitely have covered a lot today, and I want to let you get back to you said your grandson's game you're actively at.
Yeah, the Spuds are playing at Davies from across the river.
Are they taking it to him right now?
Spuds are ahead 5-1. It's going at home. They're going into the bottom of the fourth. Austin has a bunt base hit and fielded 4 balls at second. Flawlessly, so
it's a good night.
I've been watching the game out of the corner of my eye.
You're giving us like 90% of your attention.
2 things. One, you married a Moorhead gal, John, right?
No, I haven't. You must mistake me for somebody. I'm trying to think.
Okay, never mind.
You're trying to manifest something.
Maybe. But this last year at the hockey tournament.
Okay.
Staying in, and I don't remember this guy's name. I should. Staying in our motel was a guy that's pretty involved with baseball in Dassel, Cokato.
Yeah.
And I don't remember if it was in the high school level or if it was amateur. He had a little son. He had his little son with him, maybe 9, 10 years old.
Sure.
So we got to visiting, and we were talking about the people from Dassel, Cokato that we knew together. And I said, send me your address. I'm going to send your little guy a Cobber baseball cap.
Awesome.
Great.
I did. And then I wish I could remember this name. If I get back home and I'll look it up, I might have it. And I got the nicest note from him that you could ever get.
Oh, wow.
That's great.
And so it was, again, a small world, hockey through baseball. You make another another friendship. So
Of course,
Yeah.
that's ultimately what it's all about, is memories and making friends and kind of considering them family
Yep.
through that town ball, through the town ball life. So yeah, that's really cool. Cal, I don't even know where we're gonna go after that, but like I said, I think we'll let you get back to your game. I know you probably want to spend a little bit more of your attention on that. So it was fun having you, Bucky. What I want to do is maybe try to get up to Moorhead soon, and you can show me around the ballpark and the new. I haven't even been into the new locker room yet, so you'll have to show me around.
It's funny when the guys come back, they want to go in the locker room right away, the new one.
Well,
And it is, John, it is beautiful.
Yeah.
And you will really, really enjoy it.
Well, I'll
And,
say this. For as much as Terry ran, to say I was recruited is probably an overstatement. But when I went up to Concordia, there were talks of, hey, we're getting turf, we're getting new locker rooms, just get ready. And finally, my senior year, we get turf, and we're still in that old locker room. And I said, well, we got a little bit of the piece of the pie, and I'm happy for all the young guys that have come through that are now getting to enjoy that. And it seems like things are headed in a really good direction up there.
It really is. And then the baseball team, we actually used the middle part of the football locker room in the spring for the baseball locker room in the spring.
Oh, okay. Great.
So there's 132 lockers. You wouldn't need to go to the north side if you're a freshman anymore, like the old days.
Oh, yeah, they split us up.
And then so the baseball team is in the middle with about 45, 46 lockers.
Sure. Very cool.
And all the laundry facilities are right there, coach's office. There is a soccer, softball, women locker room in that building too.
Oh, wow.
So that makes it nice. So, and we just, along with returfing the football field last year, we did build a new track.
Oh, yeah. That's great.
So that was really pretty cool. And
I want
beautiful track. We had reached the point where we couldn't even run a meet on the old track anymore.
Oh, sure.
So,
and I know that, a guy that I graduated with, Logan Neal, I think his grandfather or parents may have had a pretty big donation, and now you've got a nice video board.
Yeah.
Boy, it is getting fancy up there. It used to not be so fancy. We used to just have those. Remember the old corn yellow jerseys we had?
Yeah. Well, we have a nice inning by inning scoreboard now too.
Oh man.
So yeah, good things are happening. I think we want more to happen out there yet for Division III sports, but we're getting some really nice facilities. So that's off the subject here, John. I apologize.
No, you're fine, Bucky. That's totally fine with me. Yeah, like I said, it was awesome catching up with you, and we're excited to get this interview out there. I know that there's a lot of people that know you that are excited to hear you or at least hear your voice, and yeah, we're just
send me the link how to get onto this so I can listen to all the other people.
I will send you a link, Bucky. We'll get you all connected and get you. You're probably going to you're going to be binge listening to our town ball episodes. It's going to be awesome.
Well, I am excited, and I hear that you guys have done some pretty cool things to your field too.
Oh yeah. We're honestly, Bucky. I remember I reached out to you. We were upgrading our seats, and you guys were putting personalized plaques on your seats. So first guy I thought of when I saw that, I was like, oh, Bucky's doing that up in Moorhead. I got to talk to him. So we connected for a little bit there, and yeah, a lot of cool things happening, and it's just town ball is such a fun environment to be a part of, and we're just trying to invest more and more into it. And
there's so many beautiful ballparks.
Oh yeah,
in Minnesota.
In turn,
and the grounds in that area, especially Dassel Cato, are so pristine. It's like playing on a major league field.
Yeah,
it's so.
I know Jordan appreciates the compliments
absolutely.
there.
Thank you.
We're in turn, when you invest back into the field, I think that there's a pretty obvious benefit even to the youth level, like you're doing up there. You're directly trying to influence, more baseball and more opportunities for youth. So it's fun to.
And I don't know where they got this idea, but I think there's one of your fields in Cokato or whatever has just the home plate and the pitcher's mound turfed.
Yeah, so that's our over in there's a couple fields that do that. In Cokato, the mound is turf and the plate is turf, and then our Little League Park at Spring Lake, it's the same deal where the plate is turf and then it's a portable turf mound too.
Mm-hmm.
There's some complexes around here in the small towns, especially on the North Dakota side, have done that.
Sure, and I mean,
really
as far
think it's
as
a good idea, yeah.
As far as maintenance
the turf
goes,
mound and turf home plate, yeah.
Yeah, maintenance obviously cutting down, and that's a huge thing for a lot of communities too. So, yeah, it's fun to see all the updates, and like I said, my eyes are glued anytime I see anything going on at good old Bucky Burgau Park or Bucky Burgau Field. So, we'll continue to look for those updates.
You betcha.
All right, Bucky.
This has been fun, guys.
Yeah, for sure. Fun catching up with you. And like I said, I'm gonna make my way up there one of these days, and I'll try to connect with you. All right.
All right,
Bucky.
You guys have a good night.
Yeah, you have a good rest of your week. Thanks for coming on.
Thank you.
All right.
Bye.
Bye. Bye. All right, you are back from our interview with Bucky Burgau. Good time with Bucky. Just a fun, one of those classic town ball legends that you never take time with him for granted, because he's always got something fun to say, and it's just a really good time. And Jordan, you maybe not have the same sort of history that I have with Bucky, but I mean, you'd mentioned you can kind of see. I mean, I think I said this during the interview, but the way he paints the picture of games that happened even back in the 60s and 70s, 60 years ago.
Yeah, I mean, it's like he was there yesterday, and it's just so cool to hear him talk about all of his experiences. Like, what a legend. And
yeah,
I said my younger brother has a relationship with him because he went to Concordia, and he always said great things. He's just like,
think about this, the overlap between him. We're talking about farmers, guys working at creameries in the 50s and 60s, and he played ball with them, and now has a good relationship with your younger brother. We're just talking about the overlap of baseball is just so wide with him, and that's why he's just a beloved guy. It's just he has this huge range of interactions and history with people, and he always. It's just funny. He doesn't ever leave anyone with a bad taste. He's always the most pleasant guy to sit down with and talk with.
He took our call from a game, from
where his grandson was playing.
His grandson's game, which I feel a little bad that we took that time from him for that.
I mean, he was talking ball, watching ball. I'm sure he didn't mind.
He was multitasking because he was, fielding all these questions we were asking him, and then he's like, "Oh yeah, it's 4-1, bottom of the fourth." It's like, "Oh no, he's got tabs on that too."
And he was counting how many ground balls his grandson had fielded. He had a bunt base hit. We're excited for him.
Awesome.
So, yeah, fun time. And it's always, like we said, it's
a cool guy.
It's cool to talk to all the young people involved with town ball, but ultimately you're probably going to get, no doubt, the best stories from fellas like that. So good opportunity for us to get Bucky on, and we're going to go now into our final little segment here. And I know that for diehard listeners, all 10 or 12 of them that are expecting a Minnesota Mount Rushmore today, I think our opportunity today for this segment, we actually wanted to dedicate it to kind of going back and adjusting some of the claims we made, because
we've got some housekeeping items. Some cleaning up to do.
Housekeeping?
Fresh towel.
We got to do some housekeeping. So here's what we're talking about. A couple episodes ago, it was probably actually our most listened to episode as our B ranking. Okay. We picked a team that now doesn't even play ball in Class B.
Right. So
we decided, okay, we kind of need to go back and we need to just reestablish where we're at with that. We want to we are going to pick a new favorite for our podcast to endorse. And Ryan, you had mentioned that for all the teams that we have seen moved, what's being affected? What district do we need to focus on?
Are you talking B or are you talking A?
You can go actually anywhere. I did say district, and I would assume that means B, right?
Well, yeah, I just didn't know if we wanted to start with.
You start with A. How about that?
Let's start with A. So, like we mentioned in the first segment, Owatonna, Faribault being added to Section 1. That's 10 teams, 4 tourney bids: Rochester, Meesville, Hastings, Dundas, Hampton, Newmarket, Elko, because they're one city, but they're 2 baseball teams. St. Patrick, Owatonna, and Faribault.
So
I don't think. I don't know if we need to make any adjustments to that with Faribault or Owatonna.
Can you remind us? Yeah, you said we're pretty much set as far as our choices originally that came out of there.
Yeah, it was like Meesville, Rochester, I think St. Patrick and Elko or Dundas.
Sure.
I don't know.
I think it was Elko.
Yeah, you were sad we didn't pick Dundas. I remember that. So,
Because I was going to go play for him this summer.
of course. No, so no changes.
The question will be then Section 5 with with 7 teams. They have now the Buffalo Bulldogs. They get 2 bids: Plymouth Hit Dog, Baseball 365, Minnetonka Monarchs, Max Strength Grizzlies, Hopkins Berries, and the Northwest Orioles out of Osseo with the Buffalo Bulldogs.
Right.
So we picked 3 teams instead of 2.
Oh yeah, that was the one. Yeah,
That was the one we went.
Baseball 365.
I think we had Minnetonka for sure.
Minnetonka, Hopkins, and Baseball 365. So let's drop Hopkins and add Buffalo. Buffalo's
All right.
You're dropping the berries.
They're dropping the berries. They released the guy who signed then with another team, and then that team realized, well, he actually lives way too far away, or maybe somebody caught wind that he didn't live where he claimed to live,
Okay.
or tried to use a different address. So maybe he's back with Hopkins now. Maybe he'll make a difference. But Buffalo, the new kid in town in Section 5, they're gonna get to the state tournament.
We have a lot of faith in our North Star League brethren, and
We have a lot of faith that this section's getting a 3rd bid.
I'll say this: I've never put Minnetonka on our game schedule, and I don't know if I ever will. But Buffalo is a heck of a squad. They've got a roster that can absolutely win them a game. I even at the highest levels. I mean, it's a good group, and be excited to see how they kind of battle their way through that section.
We'll have to keep tabs too on where are they going to be placed when it comes to this, Section 5 tournament.
Mm-hmm.
Are they going to be just the low seed? Are they going to put them somewhere in the middle? Who knows?
Absolutely.
I'm interested to see where the playoffs are going to be. That would be kind of unique if it was Minnetonka on the turf field and what effect that would have on it. That would be kind of fun.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Okay.
Yeah.
Well, we are gonna. We'll let you know. We'll keep our eyes on it. I mean, I think that it's this experiment. We're gonna keep an eye on the teams that are being moved up, and ultimately all these teams are being moved up. So we're gonna keep an eye maybe on their experience throughout the summer, and we will definitely keep updating our listeners with. Eventually down the road, we're gonna get to those sections. So. All right, You've got A covered. I mean, is there any other team that moved to A that you think might shake things up?
Well, Section 8 now adds 4 teams. Well, they added 4 teams: Wilmer, Monticello, Sabin, and Alexandria. So they have the 10 teams, 2 bids. We took the 2 Moorhead teams. I'm going to stick firm with the Moorhead squad.
All right, so
making a little bit of noise, but I'm going to go Moorhead and Moorhead.
We
So you're looking at a section that took on 2 teams, right? Am I right about that? They took on the Sabin Mets, and they took on the Alexandria Black Sox.
Yep.
And they're sticking with 2 bids. I mean, that's a tough.
This is now a 6-league.
Yeah, there's
section.
6 leagues. It's a polka dot league here. Probably not a lot of overlapping with regular season games. So that is a wild one. We'll keep an eye on that too. But
I
we
can't
are
wait
not
to see that bracket.
Yeah, the bracket's gonna be wild.
What are they going to do?
We'll keep an eye on it. But we are sticking with our original picks. We're gonna take our Moorhead squads to make it out of there.
All right. So then we got to go to B.
Yep.
And then we District 6. They went from 10 teams to 9 teams. Looks like they're still getting 4 tourney bids, but no more Buffalo Bulldogs. Buffalo also is our pick to win Class B.
It's a vacation.
So now
We got to pick a replacement for that district and a replacement champ then.
new state champ. So Loretto, Hutchinson, Maple Lake, Maple Plain, Hamel, Kimball, Cold Spring Rockies, Watkins, St. Martin. I think we had Hutchinson, Maple Lake, and Kimball. So you guys can pick a fourth.
Okay, looking at this, yeah, I think what's going to happen here is, oh man, you know what? I picked this group because I think they're a good group of guys. I mentioned in the one episode, the one Mount Rushmore, I would want to be on this roster if I had the opportunity. Good group of guys. Let's pick the Cold Spring Rockies to come out of this, and that'll leave Kimball. That you've got Kimball Express, you've got the Hutchinson Huskies, you've got the Maple Lake Lakers, and now the Cold Spring Rockies. So good representatives out of District 6, and that leads us to. I mean, should we wait on our state winning pick here? Is there any other districts that need to be
There was
looked at?
District 1 added Albertville. That was the only other one, but
Okay.
I don't know if we
I
need to
think
change anything there.
They're a little young. I don't-
Albertville's a young squad. I don't see them making it out of District 1.
District 1 is
They've got the Cold Spring
Yeah.
Springers. You know, I think we did take the Stone Ponies, and I know that the St. Joseph Joes are a very solid team. Yeah, there's a lot of good baseball there. So
If I had a vote, I would swap out the Joes.
I know you
Swap
would.
Clones for the Joes, but I don't have a vote. I don't have a vote.
I think you made that known immediately, so they know that you're on their side, and yeah, we can't go back and write off teams. We've got to keep them in there, the ones we pick. So
The District 5 then loses the Saban Mets and Alexandria Black Sox. We did not have either of them going to the state tournament, so it's still Bluffton / Bemidji heavy.
yeah, I still feel good about that. But boy, that district is now only 6 teams.
Is that the smallest? That's got to be the smallest, maybe anything.
5 and 8.
Well, District 8, remember?
Oh,
That's Hayes' favorite district, and
No. That wasn't. It was.
Is
if
it
we're
not?
gonna use the criteria for districts.
Yes.
Why aren't we using it for regions?
oh, gotcha. Yep. But yeah, half of District 8 makes it, and then District 5 now with the 6, you've got 1/3 of the teams will make that. So,
Gotcha.
all right. Anything else we need to shore up before we ultimately make a new decision on our Class B title winner?
Nope.
Oh boy. So Class B, I know Ryan, you kind of have to be out on this decision, even though we've made it known that the Delano Athletics will not be making the tournament. Of course, they look stellar out of the gate, and I regret that decision.
Not only did you guys kick me out of the room, you guys didn't even let me come to the studio today.
No, you
No.
you weren't allowed. It was no nonsense decision here. We didn't want anything, because I know you'd be walking in and talking about 0.0 ERA of whole staff here, blah blah blah, and I'd say, Brian, we can't change what's been done. Okay, we've already written them off. Athletics, we've written them off. We can't bring them back from the dead. Okay,
Just can't do it.
no. So let's talk then. New state title winner, vacated by the Buffalo Bulldogs. They move on to Class A.
I think there's a couple options here. that-
Do you want to verbally make that known? Do you want to
yeah.
let us know what teams you're looking at?
I'll throw a couple names out there, and you can tell me how you feel about it. And they Ryan, they are in this District 7, the couple names I'm thinking here. Young America's really good. I feel like in any class they can hang. They're maybe a good option for this. Plato is another team that I look at that pitching staff and just think they can cut teams up all the way through. So
Right.
Those are two teams I'm thinking just, off the top of my head here, but I don't know. There's a lot of options.
How about this? All right, in a world where, let's say, the state host Hutchinson Huskies make it through District 6, and they've got a number one pick,
Yeah, so
a number one draft pick.
of the teams that we, listed to make it out of District 6, Hutchinson being one of them. The teams that aren't making it out, according to us, there's some arms.
Yeah, remind us now. St. Martin, unfortunately, we have not picked. We respect our Stearns County brothers. We did not have them making it, but they have an arm.
They do have an arm. They have a leaser that, you want a guy on the mound, he's your guy. So
we're probably really wrong in the first place about them not making it, but
yeah,
in this world where they didn't,
right. No, if a team like, let's say, for example, if a team like Hutch comes out as the number one out of District 6 and they get the pick of a leaser or, Watkins didn't make it, they've got an arm too. There's plenty of options here for a number one pick.
that's why I will endorse
Okay.
Hutchinson. I'm making it known. Now, Jordan, up to you. If you want to steer this another direction, I'll give you the platform right now.
So, no, I like that. Hutchinson has a lineup that they've, proven year after year that they can put the ball in play and score a ton of runs. They just played. I know this is May baseball, but they just won their first game of the year and they scored like 14.
Yeah, I think they played Crystal, a Class A team, and Hutchinson is always good. I think the only thing with Hutchinson is they definitely need the depth at pitching, and if they can draft a 1, and if they are the first seed, you're probably going to get a top tier arm, and then on the way back, you're probably going to get a heck of a second arm, and we've seen teams ride these draftees, to state titles. I think Hutchinson has a roster that can absolutely give them run support, and ultimately pitching is the key when you get down to that final weekend.
So I think of the two teams I mentioned earlier, Plato, they do have the pitching right out of the gate, but I guess I don't know about their offense.
I mean,
Ryan,
I think that
anything
Ryan in the past, Plato has maybe tripped up just because of maybe that offensive side of things, not being able to maybe support the pitching staff.
I don't know if it's necessarily their offense. I just think that there's always been the top teams in the Crow River Valley have all had essentially two-headed monsters at the top of the road. Mm-hmm. I mean, you're seeing games that go to state that are 1-0, 2-1. So I'm glad you brought up Plato organically, though, because we do host them Friday, May 30th in Delano at 7:30. The following Friday, June 6th, we go to Watertown at 7:30, and then Sunday, June 8th, we host Young America Sunday.
So we're gonna get reports on all these teams.
Up organically because they're probably standing room only. So just make sure you get your ticket. But if you want to see what those teams do have to offer, they're going to be right close by.
I'm excited, and that's a heck of a stretch, and that's the CRVL for you. We're not going to say that one league is just stacked over one, but man, the group of teams that you just put out there, every weekend you're going out and you're playing a league game against a team that could be favored to win state every week. I mean, that's crazy. That is a packed group there. So I'm good with Hutchinson. I'm gonna stamp it.
I like
if you're with it. I'm a local homer, and
we can be yelled at for being homers. That's
yes,
fine.
You can absolutely. If you think we're idiots for picking our first off, we go to Buffalo and then we go to Hutchinson.
If you think we're idiots, you're right. Okay,
you win.
Who was the last team that won the state tournament on their home field? Trivia.
Got it. Okay. I know they talked about this a lot because, of course, Jordan was in the finals last year, and they talked about it. The last time it happened was, and then I'm blanking.
You're right. Yep, first part right. Yep.
Yeah. Was it like 2000? Was it in the 2000s?
Give us a year or
2007
a
or
stretch
8 or
of
something?
years.
So make it simple. They've hosted the state tournament every 10 years.
Okay.
Every 10 years.
You got to think about the regulars. Like, there's a Cold Spring's always in the mix for something like that. Or
I like that pick.
Listen to what I just said. Jordan has hosted it every 10 years. So if they hosted in 24, they hosted 14. That means they hosted.
I'm gonna say in 2004, Jordan won it on their home turf. You know what? I should have got that. I have very distinct memories of that being a young buck, like Babe Ruth age baseball, going to all those games and
Oh, and I have a correction. I need to correct myself. Steve Beckman, long listener, first time texter, forth about the last state tournament was up north. I kept saying 1994. It was 95 that it was what.
Oh, thank God you fixed that, because I was staying up at night thinking about it.
I've been thinking about it.
No, but
too.
it's great. It's great because he was, he has his 3 brothers, and his dad was playing for the Brewers back then, and so I think he had said that was kind of the first time that they brought all 3 kids with the state tournament, and it was northern part of the state, staying in a motel room, and so he goes, you guys keep saying 94, it was 95, and I said, and I was like, that makes sense because I my first state tournament that I went to was 96. When it was Brownton and Glencoe. And
sure.
So, well, let the record show 1995. So we're on a 30-year hiatus from an up north state tournament.
It's been too long.
Maybe we got to get it back up there.
What do you think?
We know some hosts that would do it.
Yep. Let's get it up there. Shoot, we could have Bucky Burgau host us in Moorhead. I wouldn't mind it. Let's do it. Yeah, that's our new pick, guys. You're just going to have to deal with it. I know it's probably wrong. Mike Cutter, if you're listening, congratulations. Hang the banner. I know we're stealing it out of Johnny Early's hands, our former guest, and we're giving it to Mike Cutter. Enjoy it. It obviously is a pretty prestigious thing. I think next year maybe when things blow up in our face and we're wrong about everything, we'll probably have to open it up and at least to not be labeled as such homers, we will absolutely give
when
it
the 2025 season is done and we didn't pick one single correct state tournament entrant, we're going to have to just really reevaluate how we do things.
We might have to revisit.
It sets up an opportunity next year for us to have some guests.
Yeah. Absolutely.
There you go.
We're playing the long game.
We're just stirring the pot. It's all about content and views and trying to get people riled up. So, no. Fun time. We're excited. I know that obviously both of you guys have had games going. Jordan hit a home run the other night. I forgot to mention this.
Oh, boy.
Jordan, why haven't we talked about that piss missile?
I'll tell you what.
It was not. Can you just tell us how much it cleared the fence by?
Let me just give you the whole breakdown here. I don't hit very many home runs, so I'm gonna enjoy this one for a second.
Yep.
It was my second at bat of the game. I was looking for one very specific pitch and got it on the first pitch and swung out on my shoes and hooked it around our right field pole, which the sign says it is 300 on the nuts to the pole, and I want to say it's about 298. And then it juts out pretty quickly to about 335, but got all of it around the pole. Knew I had enough of it, just waited to see if it stayed fair. So I gave it a little mini pimp job. I got to let the young guys know, hey, I can still do it from time to time.
You say, I run this show.
You know what? Jump on my back, guys. I'm going to hit a home run.
If you can't do it, I will. That's right.
No, so, got to round the bases, waved to my friends on the party deck on the third base line, and touched home plate. And I think most of the guys were just in shock. They were like, "Oh, you hit a ball. You put a ball in play."
Congratulations. Yeah, that's awesome. Good story then. Good news out of DC. Jordan hitting a home run. And Ryan, I mean, I don't know. The odds are one of us hits a home run this year, probably pretty low. I'm glad Jordan was able to get one for us.
I did the very veteran move and took myself out of the game immediately after so I could end on a high note.
Yes. I think that what I might do is throw up on the Twitter just a stat line: home runs hit by the podcast. One.
Yes. But do you think we are the leader in the state in podcast home runs with one?
It's tough to say.
There are gonna be like actual good hitters that start podcasts now just so they can be like, all right.
Yeah, watch Ben Clapp like put one episode out there and he's just gonna
he puts out one episode of a podcast and hits 12 this year.
Yeah. Oh, good stuff. And so yeah, you guys have gotten going on your games. We're basically fully rolling with the season, and we're excited to keep track of the scores, and we'll be back next week with a new guest and some new updates, and I don't know. That's kind of where we're at right now.
I think very, very last thing we can touch on, 30 seconds. Wolves Talk.
Oh gosh, Wolves Talk. So we're recording once again Monday night. We're in the studio. We're about to head out to watch the 9:00 start, which is a brutal start time. We're probably not going to get to bed till about 1 a.m. because we're so excited.
1-1 series. I think we take this one. I think Steph's still out.
Well, wait a sec.
Or am I wrong?
Is it Ryan? Can you confirm? Is the series 1-1 or 2-1?
2-1.
Oh, 2-1.
Yeah, I was trying to think like you forgot about a win somewhere.
How could I forget?
Jeez.
2-1, and 2-1. I think, is Steph still out?
Steph is still out there saying maybe a game 6.
Gotta take all that we can with him.
You really do.
Out.
You really do. I want a parade so bad, and this Wolves team is so fun, and I just hope that they don't find a way to like Minnesota sports us, you know.
Nah, we're not thinking that way.
Nah.
Can't do it. Yeah. Extend Julius. I don't know.
Extend Julius. Keep Naz Reid. Let's just keep winning. Send good vibes. And Ryan, you got anything else you want to say?
I do not. All
right, that's going to wrap up our episode then. And once again, thanks to Bucky Burgau for joining us. Congratulations to Hutchinson, our new Class B state champion.
You did it.
Good job, Huskies. Howl, you know?
Yeah.
Let's do it. Let's get a Wolves win. And we'll meet you guys back here next Wednesday. Have a great week.